Have you ever stopped to think, how many times have you asked God for something looking up at the sky, as if he were somewhere far away? How many times have you entered temples, read sacred books, listened to gurus, searching for God as if he were a hidden treasure far away from you? What if I told you that this whole search is an escape? Ramana Maharshi, one of India's greatest sages, challenged his disciples with a brutal truth. God is within you. Infinity and perfection admit of no parts. Take a deep breath. Let it sink in. If God is infinite, how can you be separate from him? If something is infinite, there is no room for division. There is no here and there. There is no me and God. There is only being. But you don't want to hear that, do you? Because if God is within you, it means you can no longer blame him for your life. You can no longer outsource your pain, your search, your responsibility. You can no longer use religion as anesthesia. The truth is, looking for God outside is more comfortable than looking within. Because outside, you can remain who you think you are. Outside, you can maintain your masks, your excuses, your stories. But inside you find the emptiness that scares you, the silence you avoid, the question you never wanted to answer. Who am I really? Ramana doesn't ask you to believe in God. He asks you something much more difficult. Stop running away from yourself. Think about it. You pray, you meditate, you seek spiritual answers. But how often have you really stopped to investigate who this you is that's searching? Who is this person who has doubts? Who is this person who suffers? Who is this person who feels like something is missing? Do you want to know who God is? Then first find out who is asking that question. Because the truth that Ramana reveals is this: God is not hidden from you. You are hidden from yourself. You've built layers and layers of identity. Your name, your profession, your life story, your wounds, your fears, your achievements. And now, you believe this is you. But Ramana asks, when you sleep deeply without dreams, where is all this? Where is your name? Where is your story? And yet, you still exist, don't you? So, who are you when there is no thought? When there is no memory? When there is no name? That's the investigation that scares you. Because if you find out it's not what you always thought it was, what's left? And Ramana's answer is simple, yet devastating. God remains. Pure being remains. The only thing that has always been here before any search remains. You don't need to find God. You need to stop hiding from him. You don't have to go anywhere. You have to stop running from the only place he's ever been inside you. But this takes courage. Because when you look within, really look, without distractions, without theories, without books, you encounter emptiness. And this emptiness terrifies you. Because you've spent your entire life trying to fill it. With people, with achievements, with beliefs, with identities. Ramana invites you to do the opposite. Dive into the void. And discover that it is not empty. It is fullness. The search for God out there is the greatest spiritual illusion. It's the most sophisticated form of self-deception. Because while you're searching, you can continue to ignore him. While you're seeking, you can postpone the encounter. But Ramana nips this escape in the bud. If you don't know if God exists, but you know that you exist, then focus on yourself first. Simply strive to find out who you are. And when that is achieved, you will know everything. Do you understand what this means? It means that all your questions about God, about the meaning of life, about purpose, are distractions. They are ways of avoiding the only question that matters. Who am I? And when you answer that question, not with your mind, but with your being, all other questions disappear. Because you realize that the questioner was just an illusion, a mental construct, a phantom. And what's left is God. What's left is you. But now you are no longer you. You are everything. If you've made it this far, maybe you're ready to stop looking outside. Maybe you're ready to look inside. Even if it means losing everything you thought you were, because in the end, the only thing you lose is the illusion. You want answers about God. You want to understand the meaning of life. You want to know why you're here, where you're going, what God's plan is. And you spend years, maybe decades, theorizing, reading, debating, searching. But Ramana Maharshi looks you in the eye and asks you something that completely unsettles you. Who is asking these questions? Think about it. Really think about it. It's not God who's confused about his own existence, it's you. It's not God who suffers from existential doubts, it's you. So, why are you trying to solve the wrong question? Ramana said, it's not God who asks these questions, it's you. If you don't know if God exists but you know you exist, then focus on yourself first. And here's the truth that no one wants to hear. You use God as a distraction from yourself. Because it's easier to philosophize about the absolute than to face the emptiness within yourself. It's more comfortable to debate reincarnation than to investigate who's here now. It's safer to seek the meaning of life than to ask who's living. Do you want to know about past lives, but you don't even know about your present life? Do you want to understand the universe, but you don't even understand your own thoughts? Do you want to know who God is, but you don't even know who you are? And Ramana cuts through this entire intellectual flight with a devastating sentence. There's no point in that. There's no point in theorizing about God. There's no point in speculating about the cosmos. There's no point in seeking spiritual answers until you answer the only question that matters. Who am I? But that question scares you, doesn't it? Because it can't be answered with words. It can't be answered with concepts. It can't be answered with what you've learned, with what you believe, with what you think you are. When you investigate, who am I? All your answers begin to crumble. I am my name. But your name is just a sound they gave you. Did you exist before it? I am my body. But your body is constantly changing. You were a child. Now you are an adult. So who are you that remains while your body changes? I am my mind. But your thoughts come and go. You observe them. So who is the observer? Do you realize? Every answer you give is just another layer of identification, another mask, another illusion. And Ramana invites you to go beyond them all. He invites you to ask again and again and again, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Until there is no answer left. Until there is only presence. Because you are not an answer. You are the consciousness that witnesses all answers. But that's hard to accept, isn't it? Because if you're not your stories, your memories, your achievements, your wounds, then who are you? And more importantly, why did you build this whole identity if it's not you? The truth is, you built an identity because you were afraid of emptiness. You became someone because you couldn't stand being nobody. You created a life story because the silence of pure existence terrified you. And now you're trapped in this story. You believe so deeply that you are her, that any threat to that identity destroys you. Does anyone criticize you? You defend yourself as if your life depended on it. Does anyone reject you? You feel like you're being annihilated. But Ramana shows you, you only suffer because you believe you are somebody. If you realized you were nobody, who could be hurt? This isn't nihilism. This isn't a denial of life. It's the most radical liberation there is. Because when you stop identifying with history, with your ego, with your mind, you discover that you are something infinitely greater. You discover that you are consciousness itself, in which everything appears and disappears. And then finally the question, who is God, dissolves. Because you realize that God was never a separate entity out there. God is the very consciousness that you are. God is the being that is here, now, before any thought. Ramana said, when you discover who you are, you will know everything. Theorizing about God cannot help you. Do you understand? To theorize is to run away. To ask is to postpone. To seek is to avoid finding. Because the answer is nowhere. The answer, and you, not the you think you are, but the real you, the pure being, who has always been here, silently witnessing all the searching, all the doubt, all the suffering. And when you turn within and ask, who am I, with complete sincerity, without wanting an intellectual answer, without wanting comfort, something extraordinary happens. The question begins to dissolve, and what remains is not an answer. It's a presence, a silent, clear, unchanging consciousness. And this presence needs no proof from God, because it is God. You spent your whole life searching outside for what was always inside. You spent your whole life asking the wrong questions because you were afraid of the one right question. But now you know. The question is not, who is God? The question is, who am I? And when you answer that question, not with words, but with being, all searching ends. All doubt disappears. All separation reveals itself as illusion. Because you realize God and I were never two. If you've made it this far, maybe you're ready to stop asking and start looking. Because the answer isn't in words. It's in the silence that exists before any word. Have you ever found yourself wondering who you were in past lives? Have you ever wondered what will happen in the future, 5, 10 years from now? Have you ever spent hours imagining what life would be like in other countries, other realities, other times, and meanwhile, you completely ignore who you are now? Ramana Maharshi had a devastating way of exposing this escape. You want to know past lives, but you don't even know the present life. There is no point in that. Think about it. Really think about it. You worry about the future, about tomorrow, about what will happen, but you can't even be present in the only moment that truly exists. It is. You fantasize about the past, relive traumas, cling to memories. But you don't realize that the past only exists as thoughts. Now. You don't realize that everything you call the past is just a story your mind tells in the present. And the future? The future is just projected anxiety. It's fear dressed up as planning. It's the mind running away from the only place where you can truly exist, here and now. Ramana said, "Why should you worry about the future if you don't even know the present? Take care of the present, and the future will take care of itself." But you don't want to care about the present, do you? Because the present is uncomfortable. In the present, you feel emptiness. In the present, you feel loneliness. In the present, you encounter all the emotions you spend your life trying to avoid. So you run away to the past, run away to the future, run away to fantasies about other lives, other worlds, other versions of yourself. And with each escape, you move further away from yourself. You worry about Europe, about America, about the state of the world. But Ramana cuts you off. They're just in your mind. Do you understand what this means? It means that everything you think exists outside of you is just a mental projection. You are not experiencing the world. You are experiencing your thoughts about the world. You're not living life. You're living your interpretations of life. And while you're lost in these interpretations, these projections, these incessant thoughts, you miss the only place where God can be found. The only place where you can be found, the only place where truth exists, the now. Ramana told a parable that destroys all illusion. You see several men in a dream. Then you wake up and remember that dream. What's the point of thinking about the condition of people from that mental creation? Let that sink in. Your whole life can be like a dream, and you're so absorbed in it, so identified with it, that you forget to ask, who's dreaming? You worry about the dream characters. You suffer from the dream's problems. You seek solutions within the dream. But you don't realize that the only real solution is to wake up. And how do you wake up? By stopping identifying with the contents of your mind. By stopping believing your thoughts are reality. By stopping living in the past and the future and finally immersing yourself in the present. Because in the present there are no problems. In the present there is no lack. In the present there is no suffering, there is only existence, consciousness, being. But you're afraid of that, aren't you? Because if there's no me in the present, who are you? If there's no history, if there's no memory, if there's no planning, what's left? And Ramana's answer is this: the only real thing remains. God remains. You remain without masks, without time, without separation. Do you want to know about reincarnation? Ramana tells you, first find out who was born in this life. First find out who is here now. Because if you don't know who you are now, how can you know who you were or who you will be? Every search for past lives, every worry about the future, every obsession with the external world is an escape. It's the mind trying to avoid confronting the present. Because in the present, the mind loses control. In the present, the ego has nowhere to hold on. Ramana invites you to something radical. Stop. Just stop. Stop thinking about tomorrow. Stop reliving yesterday. Stop worrying about others, the world, and everything that's beyond your control. And when you stop, when you really stop and be still, something extraordinary happens. You realize there was never anything to seek. You realize there was never anything to resolve. You realize all suffering came from the mind trying to escape the present. And in the present, there is peace. Not because the problems have disappeared, but because you realize that problems only exist in time, and in the pure present, without time, without past, without future, there are no problems. There is only being. Ramana said, "Take care of yourself, and let the world take care of itself." This is not selfishness. This is not indifference. This is lucidity. Because when you take care of yourself, and by take care of yourself, he doesn't mean pampering your ego, but exploring who you really are. You realize there is no separation. When you find yourself, you find everything. When you are at peace with yourself, you are at peace with the world. But while you are running away from yourself, projecting yourself into the past and the future, worrying about everything except what is here and now, you live in constant conflict. You live as if you were asleep, as if you were dreaming. And suffering is just the alarm trying to wake you up. So wake up. Not tomorrow. Not after you figure everything out. Not when life is perfect. Now, because the present is not a moment in time. The present is the gateway to eternity. The present is where God lives. The present is where you truly exist. If you've made it this far, maybe you're ready to stop running. Maybe you're ready to let go of the past that never returns and the future that never arrives. Maybe you're ready to finally be here, because this is the only place you can be found. Waiting for your approval to proceed with Chapter 4. Try again. You hear the word surrender and feel a tightness in your chest, don't you? Because surrender sounds like defeat, like giving up, like weakness. You've spent your entire life trying to control your emotions, control others, control the future. You've built strategies, defense mechanisms, plans, all to avoid feeling vulnerable, all to avoid feeling powerless. And now someone says to you, surrender. Ramana Maharshi taught that there are only two paths to liberation: inquiry into the self, asking, who am I, to the source, or complete surrender. And for many, surrender is even more frightening than inquiry. Because investigating still gives you a sense of control. You're doing something, you're searching, you're in charge, but surrender. Surrender, I let go of control completely. And that scares you. Ramana said, complete surrender implies that only God's will is your will, and that you have no will of your own. Take a deep breath. Let it sink in. Not having a will of your own, not having an agenda, not having plans, not needing things to go your way, not having your ego screaming, I want, I need, I deserve. That's terrifying, isn't it? Because if you don't have a will of your own, who are you? And there's the point. You are afraid to surrender because you are afraid to disappear. You believe that your ego, that voice in your head that's always demanding, comparing, judging, planning, is you. You believe that if your ego dies, you die. But Ramana shows you the truth. The ego is not you. The ego is the prison that holds you hostage. The ego is that part of you that is never satisfied, that always wants more, that lives in fear of not being enough, of not having enough, of not being recognized, of being abandoned. The ego is the wound that never heals because you never stop picking at it. It's the voice that sabotages you, that compares you to others, that turns every moment of peace into anxiety about the future. And you think you're protecting yourself by keeping your ego alive, but in reality you're destroying yourself. Ramana said, total surrender is a difficult thing. Whenever one tries to surrender, the ego rears its head. Have you ever tried? Have you ever really tried letting go of control? Have you ever tried to trust completely, unconditionally, without reservations? And what happened? The ego panicked, didn't it? It started screaming. What if it goes wrong? What if you're betrayed? What if you lose everything? What if you're humiliated? Because the ego thrives on fear. It convinces you that it needs you to protect it. But the truth is, the ego needs you to survive. And as long as you believe in him, you will live in the prison he built. A prison made of worry, of control, of resistance to life. Ramana offers 2 ways to kill the ego. The first, investigate the source of the I. Ask, who am I, until the illusion of the ego dissolves into pure consciousness. The second, render see completely. Surrender everything. Give up all self-will. Accept that you don't know, that you don't control, that you are not the author of your life. And this surrender is not passivity. It is not giving up on action. It is giving up the illusion that you's in control. Ramana said, if you could not know, surrender to him and accept his will. Gradually develop the conviction that only God exists. Only God exists. There is no you and God. There is no your life and God's will. There is only one force, one intelligence, one life manifesting through everything. And when you surrender to it, when you stop resisting, when you finally let go, something extraordinary happens. The peace you have always sought through control appears the moment you give up control. Because peace was never something to be achieved. Peace was always there, hidden beneath layers of resistance, fear, and ego. Ramana said, if there is real surrender, there will be no complaint or frustration. Do you understand what this means? It means that all suffering comes from resistance. All suffering comes from you wanting life to be different than it is. You suffer because you want people to be different. You suffer because you want the past to be different. You suffer because you want to control the future. But when you surrender, when you completely accept what is, when you trust that there is a greater intelligence at work, suffering disappears. Not because life becomes perfect, but because you stop fighting it. And that's not resignation. That's not giving up. That's wisdom. Ramana taught, the same prayer can indicate a lack of trust. You can't ask God for something and still think you've surrendered. He knows what's best, when, and how to do it. Leave everything entirely to him. You pray, but you still want to control the answer. You say you trust, but you still have a plan B. You say you've surrendered, but you're still calculating, strategizing, manipulating. This is not surrender. This is negotiation. Real surrender is letting go. It's saying, not I, but you, my Lord. It is giving up all sense of I and mine. It is leaving everything in his hands according to his will. And when you do that, when you really do that, you realize something amazing. You realize that the ego, the one you thought you needed to protect, the one you thought was you, was just a burden. And now, without him, you are free. Free to live without fear. Free to love without attachment. Free to be without needing to prove anything. Ramana said, surrender is killing the ego, giving oneself completely to the Lord, saying all the time, not I, but you, my Lord, giving up all sense of I and mine, leaving everything in his hands as he wills. If you've made it this far, maybe you're ready to let go. Maybe you're ready to stop fighting. Maybe you're ready to realize that the control you cling to is just the rope tying you to suffering. Because in the end, there are only 2 options. Live with the ego and suffer, or die to the ego and be free. The choice has always been yours. But now you know. Surrender is not weakness. It is the greatest courage there is. You've come this far. You've gone through all the layers, all the illusions, all the escapes. And now only one truth remains. The simplest, the most devastating, the most liberating. I am that I am. Ramana Maharshi said that the entire wisdom of Vedanta, the entire essence of all the sacred scriptures, is contained in these 2 biblical statements. I am that I am, and be still, and know that I am God. Think about it. Really think about it. Not I am John or I am Mary. Not I am successful or I am a failure. Not I am strong or I am weak. Just I am. No adjectives, no stories, no qualifications, just pure existence, pure being. And when you rest in that I am, without adding anything to it, without trying to define it, without trying to make it into something, you realize that this is God, not the God of religions, not the God of books, not the God who judges, who punishes, who rewards, but the God the God who is consciousness itself, existence itself, the very being that is here, now, witnessing everything. Ramana said, God is just being yourself. You already are. Do you still want to reach what you already are? Do you understand the brutal irony of this? You spend your entire life searching for something you already are. You spend your entire life trying to become something you've never stopped being. You seek peace, but you in peace when there is no thought. You seek love, but you in love when there is no fear. You seek God, but you in God when there is no ego. The search is the only obstacle. Effort is the only barrier. The idea that you need to get somewhere is the only thing keeping you from where you already are. Ramana taught, all that is required of you is that you give up thinking that you are this body, and that you give up all thoughts of things external or separate from you. It seems simple, right? But it's the hardest thing in the world, because you're so identified with your body, your mind, your stories, your wounds, that giving up on them feels like giving up on yourself. But the truth is the opposite. Giving up on this is finally finding yourself. The body is not you. The body is just a temporary vehicle. You were here before it was born, and you will be here after it dies. You are the consciousness that witnesses the body, not the body itself. The mind is not you. The mind is just a stream of thoughts. You watch thoughts appear and disappear. You are the space in which thoughts occur, not the thoughts themselves. Your stories are not you. Your memories, your achievements, your wounds, these are all just contents that appear in consciousness. You are the consciousness, not the content. And when you realize that, when you really realize it, everything changes. Because now you are no longer vulnerable. No one can hurt you because there is no you to be hurt. No one can reject you because there is no you to be rejected. No one can diminish you because there is no you to be diminished. There is only to be, pure, immutable, eternal. Ramana said, whenever the mind wanders towards objects, stop and fix on the unity. That's practice. That's discipline. That's everything. When your mind starts to wander in thoughts about the past, about the future, about others, about problems, look, return to the I am. Return to the awareness that is here, now, before any thought. And when you pay attention to where the notion of I arises, when you dive into the source of that I, the mind absorbs itself into that source, and what remains is not thought. It is pure presence. Ramana taught, I am that I am sums up the whole truth, and the method of this discovery is summed up in this: be still. Be quiet, not externally. You can be silent and still have a mental storm, but be silent internally. Quiet at the level of identification, quiet at the level of ego. Stop trying to be someone. Stop trying to prove something. Stop trying to achieve something. Stop trying to change something. Just it is, and in that pure being, without effort, without seeking, without resistance, you discover what has always been there. You discover that you were never lost. You discover that you were never separated. You discover that you never needed anything, because you already are everything. Ramana said, if you pay attention to where the notion of I arises, the mind absorbed in that source, that is practice, that is discipline, that is all. There are no complicated techniques. There are no elaborate rituals. There are no years of study required. Just this: go back to the source. Return to the I am. Return to the pure consciousness that you are. And when you do this, repeatedly, constantly, without giving up, one day something happens. The you were seeking disappears, and what remains is only being, only God, only pure, eternal, infinite consciousness. And you realize that it was always this, that it was never anything more, that all the searching, all the suffering, All the separation was just a dream. And now you're awake. Not because he achieved something, but because he finally stopped running from what was always there. Ramana said, God is just being yourself. You don't need to become spiritual. You don't need to become enlightened. You don't need to become anything. You just need to stop trying to become and rest in what you already are, because you are already what you are seeking. You are already peace. You are already love. You are already God. The only thing separating you from that is the thought that you are not. Then be quiet. Stop thinking. Stop searching. Stop resisting. And discover finally that you are never far from home. Because you and the house. You are the home. You are the destination you've always been searching for. I am that I am. This is the only truth, the only reality, the only thing that survives when everything else disappears. And when you rest in that truth, when you live in that truth, when you, and this truth, every search ends. Because you realize there was nothing to seek. There was nowhere to get to. There was nothing to achieve. You were always free. You were always complete. You were always God. I was just too distracted to notice, but now you know. And knowing that changes everything. If you've made it this far, maybe you're finally ready to stop. Stop searching. Stop fighting. Stop trying to be something other than who you already are. Because in the end, there is only one truth left. I am. And that's all. That's always been all.